So in a change to the usual format, I'm going to do a little bit of an experiment. While walking in the supermarket, in the children's aisle, as I shall call it, where there are a lot of snacks aimed at young children, I saw this, which is Piccolo cooking rice pasta, which happens to be gluten-free, 6 months plus. And I was intrigued because it's basically tiny pasta rings, and I thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting to try and take this and make spaghetti hoops out of it. So firstly, in this recipe, we've got to make the sauce before we use the tiny spaghetti rings. So, got this Italian passata by Sainsbury's. Going to tip all of that in here. Going to try to anyway. Next, 1 tablespoon of tomato puree. I've done this before, although you wouldn't know because that's not coming out quite as easy. There we are, and let's bring this up, put this in the mixture. Slight mistake. So let's add some seasonings to it. Hopefully I get this right. We've got garlic granules, onion granules, smoked paprika and pepper, and we're just going to bring these up and tip these into there, and we can see now, look, we've got the makings of this sauce. 2 tablespoons of sugar. Let's put some salt in there, and lastly we've got some, I've got to get the right way round, Henderson's relish, which does anyone else use this in their cooking? It's very good, gives kind of a tangy thing going on. So let's just do a couple of shakes of that. Now we've got all of these ingredients in, let's stir it all together, mix it up. This is the easy part of this, and as with a lot of things, I'm learning that a lot of cooking is about waiting. There will be some waiting in this recipe, but don't worry, I'll try and cut most of that out. So now we've got all of that in there, let's turn this up to 6, and we now have to bring this to a boil and then simmer. The first time I did this, I wasn't sure what that meant, but it just means turning down the oven and just leaving it there to kind of thicken in consistency. So as we can see here, we're starting to bubble up a little bit. Always very visually interesting, this, the idea of bubbling and that sound as well. Kind of looks like a tomato soup or a bolognese coming to the boil. But we've got all of those ingredients that we talked about and put in here. And don't worry, we're going to have some tiny spaghetti hoops very soon. So now we're bringing that to a boil. Let's turn that down and leave it to simmer. Although we have to do some stirring, of course. Just keep stirring, just keep stirring. Next, we finally have the appearance of the pasta, which is in this packet. This sort of reminds me of like those military rations that you see. If you've ever watched any videos about like old military rations, they come in packets very similar to that. That's just what that reminds me of. So these are what the rings look like before we do anything else. So let's come out from there and tip them into a cup. Measure a full cup. These are tiny, aren't they? It's like something out of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or something. Which I can now say, proudly or not, that I've actually seen the full trilogy of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I watched the the free films on Disney Plus recently. So that's what that brings to mind. I'm just waiting for this water to boil, and I think we're pretty much there. And then we'll tip the pasta into there. I'm thinking that a few might dissolve, so we'll have to watch out for that. And while I'm waiting for that, if you've got any suggestions for any recipes that you would like to see me try on this channel, because I predominantly want to do cooking videos on this channel, then please let me know in the comments below or tweet me on Twitter at JamieDyer89. So here comes my favourite part of the video. I've done it a few times now, the pouring into the pan. Let's try and do this as quickly as possible. And like I say, I wonder if any are going to disintegrate when they go in there, because they're so small. So let's just make sure that they are separated and not all stuck together. I can hardly see these when they're under the water there because they're so small. Just waiting for that to simmer a little bit. The packet says 4 minutes to cook. So we'll wait and see, and then after that, maybe a few steps in between, we'll combine them together. So I've skipped forward a few steps, and what I've done is drain these in the sink, so out of the saucepan into the colander, and now back into the saucepan again, just to eliminate the water. Whoa, I was not expecting that. Giant clump. I'm consistently amazed at how small these are. Extremely pleasing, I think. So now let's just tip a bit of this sauce in. So we're not going to use all of that. I'll put that in a jar for later. So now we'll just stir this in and get the sauce at one with the rings. I keep thinking I'm going to break them, like it's just going to turn into some kind of mush, but I think most of all they're staying true to themselves. So I don't know about anybody else, but it wouldn't be spaghetti hoops without some toast, would it? So if you just come round here, and you can see that I've got this Promise gluten-free bread, which is in here, and then we'll just push this down. So now it's time to serve, and what I'll do is just a heaped teaspoon on each one, like that. Yeah, let's try it. So I'm now joined by my wife Andrea to try this. This is the first time that I've tried to make this dish. It was really a complete experiment, and certainly I think it proves, although I haven't tasted it yet, that even if something was intended for children, I mean, this rice pasta was on clearance. It was like £1 or something per box, and we picked up free. So even if it's intended for children, it can still make a meal for anybody, really. It's just a label at the end of the day. So dig in, and let's try the pasta first.
That's nice and tomatoey, and not a million miles away from like the sauce that's in spaghetti hoops and baked beans and stuff.
Well, it's got that sweetness in there, and that will be the sugar and even the passata to a point. The rice pasta, because of its intended target audience, is very melty. It basically melts on impact. You wouldn't even know that that was a ring, because, you know, they're not too big and they just melt immediately. So let's try a bit of toast with it, the classic. if I can get that off. The gluten-free bread did char somewhat, didn't it? It got a bit burnt. I mean, you can't argue with that. It's just a classic, isn't it?
I like that on buttered toast.
Because almost like the meltiness of the rings go extremely well with that like lushness of the bread.
I'm pleased with this.
Oh,
It's
yeah?
been a long time since I've had spaghetti hoops because we're gluten-free and you can't get them.
That is true, yeah, and it is. I mean, I'm sure you could get pasta that was bigger than this that has, you know, that same property, the fact it's gluten-free, but that is quite pleasing. It almost feels like a childhood favourite, even though I didn't grow up with this, you know.
The look of something, the shape of something is important. Like, it doesn't taste any different, but it contributes to the eating experience.
Yeah, definitely so. Well, that was an experiment, and I'd say it was a successful one. Thank you so much for watching. Please do rate, comment and subscribe to the channel for more food videos when I've finished dropping that. I'll fetch that later, that's my dinner. Yeah, subscribe for more content and me making a huge bleep out of myself. Bye bye for now.